And now, coming to you live from Shenango Valley Studios, sponsored by Sheets, your host, Sean Zipline, with the Zip Code. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We got a great guest tonight. For those of you that love NFL football, for those of you that love college football, and for those of you that have some sort of tie to the Shenango Valley. So before we bring them on, I'm going to go over a few things real fast. Want to make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, _zip code. You can follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel there. We will be posting a link on Facebook, so you can make sure to subscribe and make sure that you like our page on Facebook as well. Now, right now on Instagram, with our sponsorship Sheets, we are giving away a bunch of gift cards, coffee mugs, etc. So if you can head over to our Instagram page, you can tag a few people and you can enter into the contest. So make sure that you do that. So right now, check to your right, you can see that there's a chat bar. If you have any questions for our guests during the show, we will try to get them as much as possible. We have a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of material. So I would try to get to the questions as best you can. But without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest, none other than Shenango Valley's finest, Marlin Jackson. Let's bring Marlin in here. Marlin, can you see me?
I can see you, Sean. What's going on, my man?
How are you?
Oh, I'm phenomenal. I'm great. I'm just easing into my evening here in Noblesville, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis.
And before we start, I want to thank you for taking time out, especially you got 3 kids, 3 boys, right?
Yep, I got 3 little boys and my beautiful wife. My boys are 7, 4, and 2. This is a busy time in the evening, but the opportunity to come on and connect with my roots, Shenango Valley, I couldn't pass up the chance to do so.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you carving out a little bit of time.
It's my pleasure.
So before I get started, if your camera's a little bit shifted, we can see like half your head. Now we can see your full head.
There we go. You can see my whole bald head now.
We want to see that whole bald head, man. So before we get started, I'm going to just go over a few things. 2000 USA Today High School American, 2000 USA Today Player of the Year in Pennsylvania, 01 College Football Freshman All-American, 02 to 04 College Football American, 04 Team Captain at the University of Michigan, 05 First Round Draft Pick with the Colts, 07 Super Bowl Champion, and during that time and after, a bunch of NFL awards and community awards, man. I'm gonna take a drink after saying all
that. No, it's actually quite humbling, to hear all those accolades, because I kind of don't necessarily dwell in the past. I kind of just I achieve goals and I set new ones, and I'm going after those things. But it's cool to have lived through all of those experiences, and to have all of those accolades, because it's a part of history, and it's always great to be remembered in a positive light.
Absolutely, and as I told you before, it's kind of surreal interviewing you right now, because as a guy in the Shenango Valley growing up, Marlin Jackson was the epitome of athletic success. So here he is, right here.
No, never. Like it's still like for me to hear, like, people's perception of me. Like, no, I've lived through all of this and I've experienced everything, but I'm still always just like grounded, where I don't see myself, in the light that others do a lot of the times. But it's always cool, because it's just respect. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate it to be viewed in that light, in that manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, everybody in the Shenango Valley, we know most of your story, where you came from. I mean, it's a true story of, coming up from nothing to where you are now. So we're going to love to tap into that. And before we tap into that, I'm going to say one thing about St. Elmo's in Indianapolis. So my family takes a trip to Indy 500 every single year. And I've heard that everybody on the Colts at one point in time has to go get that shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's. Is that true?
That is true, outside of myself, because I'm allergic to shrimp. So I've gone to St. Elmo's plenty of times. I've gotten a steak, but I skipped that shrimp cocktail. I pass on that.
What about the cocktail sauce? I mean, they make you try it?
No, I've tried it. I've dipped my finger in it. It's strong. It'll open up your nasal passage. That's for sure. What do you think about it?
Oh, the first time I tried it, I thought I was dying for like 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, it cleared you all out, right?
Yeah. So I think next time I'm gonna have to get a bottle. Anytime I'm sick, or like feeling a little head cold, I'm just gonna take a little shot of that cocktail sauce.
There you go. Get you right. Get you straight.
A- Absolutely. So let's dive right into it. A lot of success coming from Sharon High School. Obviously, you go on to Michigan, but let's start in your high school years, and then later on we can backtrack a little bit. What was that recruiting process like coming out of high school, and why did you first choose Michigan?
Um, the recruiting process was a phenomenal experience. I think most times when it comes to college, the normal student is actually courting schools, and you're seeking to find your university and you're applying to them. But as a top tier athlete, 5-star recruit, you have schools from all over the country coming after you. Um, and in the beginning, I started off as a sophomore. I was offered my first scholarship to University of Penn State, and then soon after that, more offers started to come. And a lot of times when I look back and I think about some of the schools, like I remember a coach from Miami coming up to Sharon to visit me and to chat with me, and I just really dismissed Miami, but that was a time where Miami was on probation and they weren't that good. But a few years after that, they won a national championship. You know, um, and to remember have those memories and those times of being courted by so many schools from across the country, it was exciting. To put in all the hard work, to have it be a goal of mine to be recruited. I grew up idolizing my big brother, Marco Jackson, on the football field, wanting to be like him, wanting to play like him. And I remember as a kid, like fourth, fifth grade, seeing letters from Nebraska, seeing letters from Notre Dame, seeing letters from Pitt. And I aspired to have that happen to me, and to put in the work, and actually see it come to light. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal to be courted by so many schools across the country. I do have regrets in it though. Like now, I would have taken all 5 of my official visits, just knowing everything that I know now. I would not have stayed just so loyal to Michigan and not taken any other official visits. I would have cashed in all of those free trips. I would have gone to Miami. I would have gone to Florida. But this is me knowing about those places now. you know.
Well, obviously it's the ripple effect, but let me throw my 2 cents in there being a graduate of Penn State. You did commit to Penn State, correct? Your sophomore year of high school?
I did commit to Penn State when I early on. I did commit to Penn State. So that was my team. Growing up with Kajana Carter, LeVar Arrington, Brandon Short, David Macklin, Chaffee Fields. Like, I'm rattling these guys off because it's like that was my team. But it was at that point in time, it was all I knew. You know, and sometimes when with the exposure, you see more, and it broadens that horizon of like, oh, this is what else is out there in the world for that what the world has to offer. And I came to want more of a bit more of an urban setting, to at least have that as an option. You know, with the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, having Detroit not too far away, having Canada going across the border not too far away, versus State College, cow pasture, pastures, cows, out in the middle of nowhere. And it just became like it wasn't. And the main thing that did it was I didn't connect with the players at Penn State. Like, the culture, in my opinion, was not. in good standing at that time at Penn State. I feel like their locker room was a bit divided, and they weren't very welcoming. So I didn't really have a sense of like what it would be like to be around the guys. Like if I went to Penn State, but when I went to Michigan, I felt like I was at home. Like the guys that were there, I bonded with quickly. The coaching staff I bonded with quickly, and I didn't get that at Penn State, but it was the aura of Penn State and Joe Pa that reeled me in, and that had me like, okay, this is where I want to go. I want to be a Nittany Lion. But as I got older and I moved past that sophomore year and I went into my junior year, going into my senior year, I just could not connect with the players there, and that was one of the reasons why I chose to go to Michigan over Penn State.
So when you eventually committed to Michigan, did you have to call Paterno and face him?
Yeah, yeah, that's Coach Wildman. That was one thing that the honorable thing to do was to make me call the schools that were on my finalist list, and it eventually came down to Michigan, Tennessee, and Penn State. So I had to call Joe Pa, I had to call Philip Fulmer, and I had to let those guys know that I was going to be taking my talent, as LeBron would say, to to Ann Arbor.
So you go to Ann Arbor, you have a great career there, obviously, and you get drafted by the Colts in the first round. Part of my show is to make sure that the guests get a little bit of a backlot tour of your journey. So you get drafted. Where are you at when you get drafted? Are you at home?
I'm at my uncle Bill's house in Youngstown, Ohio. We had a family and friends gathering there, so my mother, my aunt Gwen, the Wildmans, numerous friends, Carmone Parchman, Terrence Phillips, Kevin Harris, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, my brother, my sisters. I was there in Youngstown, Ohio, on the south side, watching the draft, waiting to hear my name called. Thought I would hear it called earlier in the draft, but fortunately, I had the blessing of being taken with the 29th pick by the Indianapolis Colts and Tony Dungy and Bill Polian, one of the best GMs of all time in the Hall of Fame, one of the best coaches of all time in the Hall of Fame. So everything works itself out. Even though I thought I would be going at the 18th pick to the Baltimore Ravens or the 25th pick to the Green Bay Packers.
So you thought you would be going earlier to those teams.
Oh, I was called the day before the draft by the Baltimore Ravens, and they told me that they were taking me in the first round, the 18th pick. Ozzie
Hmm.
Newsome called me the day before the draft and told me that they were drafting me with that pick. So obviously, I was surprised when my name wasn't called in that slot, when my phone was not ringing, when I saw that they were on the clock. And then the Green Bay Packers told me that they were drafting me in the first round with their pick at the combine. They had discussed me playing free safety, and if I would be okay with switching positions, going from cornerback. I played free safety as well in college, but finished my career at Michigan as a cornerback. And they wanted me to come in and play free safety, and I was okay with that. I was going to make that switch, and they told me that they were going to be taking me with the 25th pick in the first round. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers dropped, fell, to that slot, and it was obviously the right pick because he's a future Hall of Famer, and things worked out for everybody in there. But I was told by both teams that they were going to take me in the first round.
And who did the Ravens take?
They took Mark Clayton, a wide receiver out of Oklahoma, who I actually trained with out in Arizona in preparation for the draft and the combine.
And when somebody calls you, is that Bill Polian, the general manager, or was Tony Dungy calling you, or are they
Yeah,
both calling you just at different times?
they're all in the room together. So I believe it was Coach Dungy on the phone first, and then Bill Polian got on and welcomed me to the franchise. But um, from that time, the time that call comes in, you know, it's a whirlwind. They're welcoming you. They're making plans for the private jet, Mr. Irsay's jet, to come to Youngstown, Ohio, and pick up myself and my family and to fly us to Indianapolis. Those are things that really vividly stick out in my mind. The phone call, the elation and the relief of being picked, because I was getting nervous that I was going to fall out of the first round. And that was like, that is a great accolade in itself, to be a first round draft pick, draft choice. And I thought I wanted to go much higher. I thought I would have been a top 15 pick, but falling, to the late first round, I was just happy to stay in the first round. And I thought, I didn't even think the coach was going to pick me. I had no communication with the coach at all. I thought that I would either go to the Pittsburgh Steelers or that I would go to the New England Patriots. I had taken a visit to Foxborough, Massachusetts, and I had met with, the staff there at New England. So if at that point in time in the round, I thought that was the most likelihood that I would actually go there to New England.
Now, did the NFL send you 32 hats just in case somebody takes you?
No, no, I didn't know. I didn't know. Didn't know. I didn't have. They didn't send me. It's totally is now. See, like I feel ancient now. Like when you watch, when you watch the draft now, and all the coverage, and all the hoopla, for the entirety of the first round, the second round, the third round. Nowadays, I would have had a camera crew there in the living room with us. It would have been a whole 9 yards laid out, but it was a little bit different back then.
Yeah, it's unbelievable just what 15 years does.
Right, right. 15 years is a long, long time, even though it doesn't seem like that long.
So obviously, you put up the Colts and you got a pretty decent quarterback there with the Colts. What was your first meeting with Peyton Manning like?
I can't remember the specifics of the first meeting. I felt like it was a workout, but I say my first when I first realized that I was drafted by the Colts, I immediately said, "Oh, I'm gonna win a Super Bowl. I'm playing with Peyton Manning. Like there's a there's there's no way that he's not going to get a ring. So that just added to the level of excitement. You know, being able to compete on a daily basis against Peyton Manning. I mean, that right there was a life lesson. And competition, and work ethic, and professionalism, and your approach to not only the game, but whatever it is that you do, you know, put your best foot forward and really apply yourself and be a student of the game. Um, and a valuable lesson on leadership. Peyton was the ultimate leader. It wasn't just about saying, it was more so about doing, and leading and showing the way. And as a young rookie, a first round draft pick, to come into an organization like the Colts and to have such a rock solid foundation of leadership in place, you couldn't ask for more. And I mentioned workouts. With Peyton, he was working the hardest. And all the programs that I've ever been around, the best players work the hardest. So when it comes to everyone else underneath that caliber of player, there's no excuse. I'm sure everybody watched the Michael Jordan documentary in The Last Dance, and you saw you know the mindset of greatness, and that was what Peyton Manning had as well. It's not always hugs and kisses, and that's what I think sometimes a lot of society doesn't expect guys to curse one another out or to degrade one another, but sometimes that's competition, and that's pushing your teammate to be better, and being willing to push their buttons, and then as a teammate being willing to receive that, so that I up my level of play. and a guy like Peyton Manning, guys like Reggie Wayne, guys like Marvin Harrison, guys like Dwight Freeney, guys like Robert Mathis, you know, guys like Bob Sanders, guys like Antoine Bethea, who's still playing in the league, going on year 16. Like, man, like just saying their names is like, and to actually have just such a bond, to be a Super Bowl champion with those guys, like, no one can ever take that away. But all of those experiences with all those individuals helped shape my mindset, like, and really in everything that I do now and how I approach life, a lot of it is because of those experiences, with those individuals. Iron sharpens iron, you know. You only get to your best by competing against the best and stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, folks are here with Marlin Jackson, 2007 Super Bowl champion with the Indianapolis Colts. Want to thank Sheets. Sheets run and done. Marlin knows all about Sheets.
Yeah, the chili cheese dogs when I was in high school, late night,
There you go.
late nights in high school.
So before we get to some more questions, I just want to talk about Tony Dungy. When you have a leader with the faith that he has, and I'm sure that trickled down into the locker room, and the leadership that he has, that Peyton had, that guys like you have, even second year in the league, you get to see that. That's contagious, and I'm sure that's why you guys had a squad.
It is. So that is culture. Like, the essence of culture, in my opinion, is having your mindset shaped and influenced, and you are not aware that it is occurring because it's so embedded into the culture around you, into the relationships around you, the language and what people see and what people do all align, where you are developing this way of thinking and being, but you don't even realize it as a young naive man, and Coach Dungy, it wasn't a one-on-one thing. It was a leadership, a culture shaping and influencing of the mind through the messaging and through his leadership. You know, I never had a coach come into a meeting, and say that, the most important things when you are prioritizing, you should prioritize in this manner: faith, family, then football. Like,
Amen.
all of the coaches that I've been around, no one ever said that. No one ever put it into perspective where there are things that are bigger than football, and him as the leader of our football team being okay with that, and him, really, encouraging us to embrace and to lean in to our roles as role models, like understanding that there are young men and women and even adults that are looking up to you. So what you do and what you say matters, and he influenced me by that alone, and nothing more. Um, and that's the way that I live my life and lead my life now. And one other thing that he always would say was, like, when talking about the media, and the media is, they love you, one day, they hate you the next. It's a rocky, it's a wavy relationship. And he would always tell us, don't get too high and don't get too low. You have to learn to stay in the middle. No matter if people are praising you, don't rise with that praise. If people, are degrading you, don't sink with that belittling. Stay in the middle. Stay in the middle. Stay even kill. Like, and everything that I do in life, I have that as my mindset, understanding that there are going to be highs and lows. There are going to be good times and bad times, but I have to keep my mind and my emotions in the middle.
Yeah, and you can even see that when he analyzes football on TV now. He's just so even keel. And what in 2004, I believe it was. I think that's maybe when he released his book. My family was going across country to hike the Grand Canyon, and my dad pops that in the van. He's like, we're listening to this book on tape, baby. Here we go. So we listened to the whole Tony Dungy book on tape. Great book, and just reading him hear the whole read. Excuse me, hearing him read the whole thing was pretty cool. He's got a very soothing voice.
He does. He does. He has a calm. He has a very calm demeanor and presence. Like he never wrote. I never heard him raise his voice. Like he never cursed anybody out. I never heard him use a curse word. Like which is I don't know what your experience is with athletics, but that's kind of rare with coaches to not feel like they have to raise their voice or to use curse words to get something out of a player. It was kind of that father figure relationship where like you didn't want to let him down, which is a level of respect that's more powerful than fear.
Yeah, we're going to switch gears. I'm just going to get to two questions real fast in the chat. We have one that says, "What role, if any, would you say Terrell Austin played in your success at DB?"
Oh, I mean, well, definitely, he definitely played a role, influenced me, in terms of just being at the University of Michigan, being my coach and recruiting me, and really giving me an opportunity to get on the field early at the University of Michigan. I came in as a true freshman. I was the nickelback right away, and I ended up starting by Big Ten play. So in terms of you know, giving me an opportunity to really showcase my skill and having confidence in me. You know, TA, is the one that got me started down my path on the highest level of competition.
I think I might need to try to get him eventually to come on the zip code. He's another Valley guy. That'd be a good
He
interview.
is.
One other question we have: if you get, let's see, if you get time, would you love to know the best memory of you have of Coach Dungy?
Um, my best memory is at halftime of the AFC Championship game against the New England Patriots when we were down 21-3. Um, and he had all the confidence in the world when no one else in the locker room had any. And it was another display, a lesson of leadership and how contagious faith can be. Because you would think AFC Championship game, your rival, the New England Patriots, this is going down the wrong path. This isn't going well. But he comes into the locker room and gathers us all up and says, smiles and men, we've got it right where we want them. And like everybody's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, and in the back of your mind, you're like, come on, coach. But then he starts to run off like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna stop him. We're gonna get the ball back. We're gonna go down with score. We're gonna stop him again. We're gonna get this thing. We're gonna get this thing back in close range. We're gonna take the lead and we're gonna win this game. Like, and he said these things with so much conviction and with so much faith that you believed him, even though the circumstances that were in front of us, it was hard to believe that we would come back and win that game. But through his leadership and through his faith and his belief, he inspired the rest of the locker room to go out there and believe in the fight and to come back and win that game in the second half.
Yeah, and someone just asked a question. Do you have that ball from when you intercepted Tom Brady? I'm sure you do.
Oh, certainly. Yes, I got to have that ball. What? Yes, I got that ball. That ball ain't going nowhere. That's
You
what me and
probably
my
got
kids.
everything you wore that day, right?
I have the glove. I have the gloves and the ball. That's what I have. The Colts have my jersey and they have my helmet in a display that's at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis right now.
That's awesome. So let's move to the rapid fire round. This is a favorite segment of the zip code watchers. So, some guys, they weren't as clutch, and we've had some guys that have just done with these. So here you go, Marlin.
All right, all right.
If you could go back to one moment in your playing career, high school, college, or professional, what would it be?
I go back to my time with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I would at least get to play one game as a Philadelphia Eagle because like people don't realize, you know, I had gotten faster, I had gotten stronger before I tore my Achilles, and I was balling in OTAs going up against Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson, and I was so anxious to get back on the field and to show people, you know, and it was a great defense to really take advantage of my skills, my skill set in Philadelphia. So if I can go back in the time machine, I'm going back to the Philadelphia Eagles and I'm suiting up.
My buddy Stu Fishman's coming and go Birds. Yeah, he's a huge Eagles
Fly
fan,
Eagles,
man.
fly Eagles, fly.
I will come back to that. Goofiest Colts teammate.
Dominic Rhodes and Cato. I have to say two. And Cato, maybe three. Cato, Dominic Rhodes, Cato June, and Gary Brackett. Three of the silliest dudes.
Okay, I like that. Most memorable NFL game besides the Super Bowl.
Oh man. Ooh, I got. That's when I got. Besides the Super Bowl. Oh, I mean, the AFC Championship game. I mean, it would have to be that game. You know, biggest play of my career. One of the biggest plays in Colts franchise history, and just the magnitude of the moment. The the opponent in the game, and then you know to do all that up against the GOAT. You know, Tom Brady. You're right. You know, that's something that I'll have forever.
Absolutely. Give me one wide receiver that cornerbacks feared.
Randy Moss.
Last time
And
you signed an autograph.
last week somebody sent me something in the mail.
One hobby besides football.
Besides football, I love music. I love hip hop music. So I love to listen to music, and then something as a hobby. I love to do yoga.
There you go. Least favorite college football stadium.
IU, Indiana University.
Favorite sports movie.
Oh, the program.
Most memorable Sharon High School class.
You take me off. I gotta remember. You gotta really rack my brain and remember. What was it?
You could just give me a subject.
I said English.
There you go. Favorite food.
Smoothies.
How many times have you been to the Indianapolis 500?
Once.
One word your teammates would use to describe you.
Cannon.
Candid or cannon?
Cannon. Explosive. Explosive.
Gotcha. Most talented defensive player you've played with.
Bob Sanders. I gotta give two. Can I give two? Bob Sanders and Dwight Freeney.
Most talented offensive player you played with.
Oh my gosh. Woo. I gotta say I gotta give two on that one too. We're gonna say Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison.
Both on the same squad. Wow. Both of the defense and offense.
And both Hall of Famers.
True. One sport you're bad at.
Golf.
Favorite Indianapolis restaurant.
Like Harry and Izzy's.
Best college football atmosphere.
I'm gonna say Wisconsin.
Do you remember what happened on November 22nd, 2003?
November 22nd. Was that the last time we beat Ohio State, Michigan?
That was your victory against Ohio State. Not bad.
But that's terrible. That's like I think we maybe have beaten them one other time since then.
It may have been, but that was at your 4-year career. That was the one time you guys beat them, correct?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest regrets from Michigan right there. Is that?
Well, that was in front of 112,000 fans, so that's pretty sick.
It was
Are we?
the 100th game in that rivalry as well.
Wow. All right, I got a couple more I'm going to throw at you. How many career interceptions do you have in the NFL?
Not very many. I'm gonna say like 6 or 8, maybe 8.
All right, the NFL has you listed as 4.
Ooh. One second.
Oh, you're good.
Why are you backing up? I nobody's knocking. I'm just seeing.
Folks, we got Marlin Jackson here, the Indianapolis Colts, and then later on he played with the Eagles. Sheets running done. Thank you, Sheets. We're going to bring him back on here.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good. I got a couple more questions. So we had one against Brady, interception against Brady, interception against Carson Palmer, Jay Cutler, Vince Young.
Oh, Vince Young. And I think also what preseason doesn't count.
Okay.
I had a few in preseason. At least one against the Chicago Bears in preseason.
I was going to say, if you have more, we can write to the NFL.
Rex Grossman.
And then you guys saw him later on in the Super Bowl.
Yes, sir.
Name one Colts or Eagles teammate that you think would be a very entertaining guest on the zip code.
Ooh, Cato June will be. He's an entertaining guy. He's a comedian. He's funny, very lively. So I think he will be a good guest.
Good to hear.
I played with Cato June at the University of Michigan and with the Indianapolis Colts.
So he's one of your buddies.
Yes, sir.
Nice. Last question. Where will the zip code be in 5 years?
You're flipping that on me. I'll say the sky's the limit, right? I think it's about what is Sean, what is his team gonna put into the zip code in order to manifest what they want. How big is the vision? Is it limitless? But I'll ask you that. Like, how high is the ceiling? Is there a ceiling? Right? How far are we shooting? The sky's the limit is my mindset. Like, anything is possible is my mindset. So why not aim high? Nationally syndicated.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning into the zip code right now, you're getting a motivational speech that you didn't even pay for by Marlin Jackson. I love it. All right. So, Marlon, I got to ask you this as well. We got Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods versus Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson this Sunday in a golf match. Have you seen Peyton play?
I haven't seen him play, but I mean, I would guess that he's good. Like, that dude is so competitive, like, and he puts in the work for whatever it is he does. Excuse me. If he's on Saturday Night Live telling jokes, if he's in a commercial, or if he's playing golf, or if he's playing football, like, that dude, I know is going to prepare. And you probably wouldn't get either one of those guys to admit it right now. But this is a friendly competition, but those guys are competitors. Like, neither one of them like to lose. So, those guys are going to really be giving some good effort on Sunday, and it's all for a great cause.
Yeah, and I would not be betting against Manning and Woods. No way.
No.
So I want to get back to just a comment you had about you guarding Randy Moss. What was that like?
Oh, my gosh, man. It didn't go well.
I think he's one of the greatest wide receivers of all time.
Oh, I mean, undoubtedly. I mean, there's not even a question of that. It's like, the question is, could he be the greatest of all time? In my opinion, like, the combination of athleticism, quickness, size, and speed, and phenomenal hands, and then phenomenal football IQ. It's just a perfect recipe to have a phenomenal athlete that just can dominate the game. But, like, that's one thing I've been fortunate enough is to be able to go against great wide receivers on a daily basis. So, like, if I would compare him I would put together a mesh like Marvin Harrison and Braylon Edwards. You know, Braylon was a tall, slinky, athletic guy. Marvin, narrow, quick, ran great routes, great hands, high football IQ. Like Randy Moss, like you blend those two guys together, like you would get Randy Moss.
Wow. And you also got to play with LaShawn Jackson, Vic, LaShawn McCoy. Unfortunately, it was mostly just, in practice because of the injuries after the Colts stint. But what was that like?
Oh man, it was awesome to go up against Mike. Like in the time in OTAs where I was competing, it was the veterans that were new coming in. Mike was one of those guys. Myself, um, you know, it was fun to compete against such a icon, you know, and compete and make plays. Like like that was the fun part. I'm a competitive person. I absolutely love competition. Like, and to have the opportunity to go up against Mike and to compete and make plays, it really, it was an experience that I'll never forget. Like, just to see him up close, like everybody's, I'm sure maybe have seen the 30 for 30 on Vic, and to see his evolution and to see his raw talent, his arm talent, his ability to run, how smooth he was, and then to get the opportunity to see that on a day-to-day basis, it was phenomenal. And to see him up close as a person, like, he was one of those people where, like, he was like a guy that that would be from the valley, from Sharon, from Farrell, that's from the hood. Like, I could relate to him in so many ways in demeanor. And that's one of the things that I regret. Why I regret not being able to suit up with the Philadelphia Eagles, because just the time that you get to spend in the locker room and build those bonds, a lot of that was taken away from me in that time, because I was in the training room rehabbing. I was in the weight room working out, where the guys were in meetings and practice and really going out there competing together. But in the time that I did get to compete, it was fun. But that is like the biggest regret of my football career is not being able to suit up and play for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes, let's switch gears when we talk about Michael Vick, like him being somebody from the Valley. What made Marlin Jackson different from the other guys that weren't able to go from the quote unquote trenches to the NFL? What made your mindset different? Because you know this and I know this. There are many amazing athletes that are around our area where you grow up or I live that don't get that opportunity because of other things that come up. What is the mindset of Marlon Jackson that was able to get him to Division I level and then to the NFL?
Um, it's I would say the having the scholarship offer made it a reality, like where it wasn't an if, but it was a when. When I would get there, not if I would get there. And me, I believe it became just my focus and my drive. Like, I had tunnel vision. Like, I was able to block out the negative influences, the negative environments, and I was able to hone in and focus on the goal that was right in front of me and what was going to take me to that goal. And coming from adversity and trying to make it out, like, you need hope, like, and you need to see something for yourself, and you need to see yourself being something in the world. And football really gave me that, having the talent, but then having my talent recognized on a national level. It made me focus more in the classroom. Um, it made me choose who I spent my time with more wisely. Um, and like I said, it really gave me tunnel. It gave me tunnel vision. Like, and like what I learned in that time and having tunnel vision. Like, tunnel vision is a necessity, you know, because, like, whatever walk of life that we're in, there's always going to be distractions. There's always going to be naysayers. But what is your mindset and what is your ability to have tunnel vision and hone in on focus and focus on the goal and not talk about what you need to do to get there, but actually doing what is needed for you to get there. You know, and what I've learned is that the most one of the most important things in life is decision making. Like and beginning with the end in mind. Where do I want to go? And then understanding what decisions do I need to make in order to get there. And really, my first experience with that was with football and college recruiting. You know, being a highly rated football player, um, having the goal be tangible, right? Like it wasn't something that was a cloud of dust. Like it was actually real. Like the scholarship offer was there. And then it was up to me to have self discipline and self control and to take responsibility for my life. Like, and that's really like, I'm really big on like, I like to, I take people's advice, but I have a really strong mindset and belief system where I know I have to be responsible and accountable for the decisions that I make. And I can't go solely off of what somebody else is telling me to do because they don't have to live with the consequences. Like, and in that, like, what consequences are you willing to live with? Like, and can you take that into account when you're making decisions? So like, being able to problem solve, like, and being able to, be okay with being different, you know, because I had to separate from people and stop hanging around with certain groups of friends and stop engaging in certain activities um, because it wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to be, and I needed to be different, and I had to start worrying about fitting in and other people's approval, like and make my self approval the most valuable thing and the thing that matters most, like my approval on my future and what I do in the moment, not the approval of my friends that want me to do X, Y, or Z, where I'm going to have to live with the consequences of the actions that are taken, and not them. And for anybody, like, what are you willing to live with? Like, you better ask yourself that, and then make decisions based upon what you are and are not willing to live with.
Yep. And we'll get to this in a second because we had a question about what you're doing now and a lot of the stuff you're doing now. So we'll get to that in a second. But a couple more Valley questions. I had a couple people send me some stuff in before the interview. It says your favorite sports moment in the Shenango Valley. You have one?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, no, I do. I have one. I like, like, man, I love, like, one of the funnest times of football was high school football. Like, I mean, I can't stress it enough. Like, like, to me, like, college was fun. But the funnest times that I had in football were in high school and then the pros. Like, Michigan was phenomenal. But, like, I had the most fun in high school and in the pros. Um, I remember my junior year of high school, District 10 championship game going against New Wilmington. New Wilmington had beaten us earlier that season, so and we weren't expected to do much that season. My sophomore year, we had T.J. Phillips, Michael Roberson, Jeff Valentino, a bunch of upperclassmen. So, like, myself, Terrence Phillips, Kevin Harris, Mikey Schneider, Wade Vogan, Carmone Parchman. We were very talented, but we were unproven. And people were wondering, like, what is this Sharon team going to be like? And when we lost that game earlier in the season to New Wilmington, I was knocked out of that game with a concussion, and we lost that game. So then, to come back, fast forward to the D10 championship game, and to have everything on the line, and to go out there and play so hard and win, and to avenge that loss, like, that's one of the moments that sticks out the most, of my high school career. It may not have been the best moment, but it's up there just because of the adversity that we have faced throughout that season and being underestimated, and not really taken serious, and to lose that game earlier in that season, but to have the fortitude to come back later in the year to win the District 10 championship and avenge that loss and to go into the state playoffs, it's what sticks out to me the most.
Speaking of concussions, I'm sure you've had a few concussions just in the nature of the sport. Would you let your kids play football?
Yeah, yeah, I'll let my kids play just because, like, I know so much, like, in terms of, like, how to combat um, the negative impacts of playing contact sports. So, like, being a professional athlete, you learn about diet. Um, you learn about, you know, um, how to work out properly and take care of your body. And then you learn about the maintenance type of work that you need to do in terms of massage, in terms of acupuncture or chiropractic work, you know. So I just learned so much about how to take care of your body. You know, the concussions are one part, but just the nature of football and the damage that's done to your spine, there's even more that needs to be done outside of just reacting to a concussion after it happens. There are preventative measures that need to be taken beforehand, and just regular routine forms of maintenance, whether it be yoga, whether it be Pilates, chiropractic work that needs to take place for any athletes. Like, I know everybody doesn't have access to those resources, but me being in the position that I am, I have access to those resources. And if my boys do choose to play, football, those are things that I'll make sure that they do to take care of their body, because it's just really about your body being able to heal itself. And it's not just getting the concussion, but is your body in a state where it will be able to heal itself? Do you have so much inflammation and calcification in your spine where your blood does not circulate through your body as it should, where you are not going to heal the majority of the injuries that you come in contact with overall? What I've learned firsthand is that it's diet, it's maintenance, and it's care that will allow you to be successful and not have ill effects of concussions.
So we're going to switch to the last segment of the show. A couple more questions. I had a question that says, "What is Marlin currently spending his time on now?" So we'll get to that. You have the Fight for Life Foundation. I know you're doing a couple other things. Can you just talk a little about the Fight for Life Foundation, what you currently do in Indianapolis, and how that also impacts Sharon? Because I know you do awesome work in Sharon.
Yeah, yep. So, like, overall, I'm a social entrepreneur. So, like, a social entrepreneur, I develop business concepts that combat social issues in our communities and in our society. So the work we do at the Fight for Life Foundation is geared towards serving underserved youth. Underserved youth being children that are growing up in poverty, that have a lack of resources at their disposal. So helping these students develop the social and emotional qualities needed for success. Social and emotional, developing the ability to set and achieve goals, to feel and show empathy for others, and the most important, to build and establish and build healthy relationships, and most importantly, responsible decision making. These are things that naturally should occur at home, but as I mentioned, a lot of times when you may grow up in poverty as a kid, you have these things called ACEs. You have adverse childhood experiences, whether it be abuse, whether it be neglect, a parent incarcerated, a lack of food, experiencing divorce in your parents. These things create stress. These things can be traumatic, and it can cause toxic stress if it occurs repeatedly. So we collaborate and partner with school systems to implement school-wide social emotional learning curriculum paired with a positive behavioral intervention support system. Um, so, what we're doing is proactively shaping the mind through lessons while having a system embedded in the culture where teachers can manage behavior and document behavior and collect data on behavior to make data informed decisions, and letting them know where are the behavioral issues, where are the concerns within the student body, and then identifying these things. These are just symptoms of what may be occurring at home. And then what we're trying to do is not only identify those things, but then to connect students and families to the resources that they may need to combat the issues that they're experiencing.
And through that foundation, you've taken sixth graders to Indianapolis, and they've done various activities. What exactly did they do in Indianapolis?
Oh man, so before those kids at Mustard Elementary even reach Indianapolis, so they're participating in building dreams. So the sixth grade teachers at Mustard Elementary are implementing our social emotional learning lessons, and they're also implementing our positive behavioral intervention support system as well. So the students, based upon their behavior in the classroom, they earn the right to go on the field trip. The field trip consists of a full weekend of activities here in Indianapolis. They're bused down to Indianapolis. We put the kids and the chaperones up in a hotel here in the city. Um, we go on field trips. We do a Pacers basketball game. We do fine dining at a steakhouse here in Indianapolis. We go Christmas shopping at Walmart here in Indianapolis. We do recreational activities at a recreational facility called Incrediplex here in Indianapolis, like Chuck E. Cheese on steroids. Um, and we also do a day of pampering as well. So with our relationship with Paul Mitchell Salon here in Indianapolis, young ladies get their hair, their nails done, boys get haircuts, and then we have a workforce development experience for the students as well. So we have a partnership with Salesforce here in Indianapolis. So we take the kids to Salesforce, which is in the largest building here in the city of Indianapolis. They get to tour the building. They get to go through a Q&A with the Salesforce staff and talk about how the employees found their way to Salesforce, and it's an array of backgrounds that are a part of the panel, with from different economic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, ethnicities. So we try to create tangible learning experiences for these students, where some of these individuals may have experience the same barriers that our students are experiencing, but now we're showing them that it is possible to overcome those barriers, and not only achieve in sports as I've shown, but to just achieve in any aspect or walk of life professionally.
Yeah, and I'm saying this from myself and everybody else in the Shenango Valley. Seriously, thank you for doing that for the kids. That's awesome for those kids to experience that. And to get to go to Indianapolis, to get to see a Pacers game, and to get out of the city, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think you can. I'm sure you can think back some things that stick out in your childhood, right? Some experiences that when you still think of them right now, they make you warm and fuzzy on the inside, and they give you hope and they give you joy, right? Like, and that's a part of you being where you are today, right? And all we're doing is really creating intent, having intent to create those moments, those experiences, so that they have those feelings that they are going to need when they are in it, right? When you are in the adverse circumstance, and you may have a parent battling alcoholism, battling addiction, not having food, not having clean clothes, you are going to need something to give you hope. Like, what we are doing is creating hope.
Yeah, and to be honest, Marlon, I hope you'll be a friend of the show in the future. Might have to bring you back for a part two because there's so much I'd like to dive into. But I told you we'd be 40 minutes. We're already at an hour.
No,
So I got
it's
one
all
last
good.
question. I got one last question before you go. And it says, how would you like to see the city of Sharon grow/change? So we can lump that into the Shenango Valley. So we live
Oh,
here, right? So we see a lot of different things. But you're now in Indianapolis. So when you come back, you can actually see different things. So it'd be interesting to get just maybe like a minute on how you would like to see the city of Sharon grow and change. In my humble opinion, I'd like to see a huge sports complex. I don't know if that's going to happen eventually, but I hope so.
Yeah, sports complex would be nice, but something around um, supply chain, manufacturing, production, distribution, some type of large scale facility that employs a large number of individuals so that you can stimulate the economy and then start to expand and build upon downtown Sharon. Getting residential, maybe bringing in a hotel, more restaurants. Um, but first you have to develop the workforce, and you have to have job opportunity in order to create economic growth. Overall, for the Shenango Valley, I think it would be very wise, for the entire Shenango Valley. When I think about Hermitage, when I think about Sharon, when I think about Furrow, to consider merging and becoming one city. Um, I think it would be very beneficial in terms of attracting businesses, companies that come and set up shop in the valley. Create a stable tax base for the economy, for the local government there. Those are some things that I would like to see.
Well, if it looks like we lost Marlin there for a second, so we'll see if he pops back in or not. But I want to thank Marlin from coming on. We'll see if he hopped on. Marlin, you still there? Looks like we lost him. Well, folks, there you have it. If Marlin pops back on the next 30 seconds, we'll let him finish his thought. But I want to thank Marlin for his Fight for Life Foundation. That is out of Indianapolis. If you go to Fight for Life Foundation or marlinj28.com, you can see what Marlin's up to right now. And obviously, he had a great career at Sharon, great career at Michigan, played with the Colts, and then battled a few injuries, tried again with the Eagles, but he made that crazy interception against the GOAT, Tom Brady, in the AFC Championship, which then led them to the Super Bowl. They go on to win the Super Bowl. So Marlin won a Super Bowl his second year in the NFL, which is pretty nice because many players never get to go to the Super Bowl, let alone win a Super Bowl in their career. And Marlin Jackson out of Sharon, Pennsylvania, did it in his second year in the NFL. So I want to thank Marlin for coming on the show. I hope to be a friend of the show. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I want to remind you to go to the Instagram page. You can go to _zip code and you can enter into the Sheets giveaway. You can also go to our YouTube page, The Zip Code, and you will see our producer after we get 1,000 subscribers. Also, you can go to our Facebook page and you can like that as well. So hope you guys have a great night. I want to thank Marlin. Hopefully there will be a part 2. There's many things we could dive into. So hopefully Marlin will be a friend of the show. So, all right, folks. Thank you once again. Thank you to Sheets, and we'll catch you later. Love you, Shenango Valley.